David, I don't think we can hope for 2 weeks in a row with a story as good as was on episode 86. But any other, big pressing questions make you, start to think differently about our mortality or potentially our reality?
Well, if it happened 2 weeks in a row, there's a little saying in our family that we like to say all the time is that once is an accident, twice is a trend, and 3 times is a what, Dane?
A habit.
Yeah. So if it happened twice if I had 2 brushes with desks, I was sharp today. With death in 2 successive weeks, I would start really suspecting that my beloved wife was trying to have me offed. Or some other.
All right, I got the plan. You're going to drive down the street and tarps as far as the eye can see.
Exactly. We had the 1 tarp. We almost got him last week. This week,
we're going to finish him off.
2 tarps. You never even saw it coming. You never saw it coming. But no, I didn't brush with death. Death took the week off, and I had little to no excitement this week.
That's good to hear. But I do have some, mortality questioning. A situation, a hypothetical, if you will.
So you're setting me up. You're setting the stage, is what you're doing.
Yeah, because I have been doing some thinking lately. I've actually thought I heard this theory a couple weeks ago. I think even a couple years. It may have even been pre-COVID when I heard this strange theory. And then somebody on social media reminded me of it again this week, and I read an article about it. And it is this: that do you guys remember? And I think the Mayan calendar said the world was supposed to end in like 2012, like December of 2012.
There was a movie about it.
Right. And so everybody thought, oh man, like when they hear end of the world, they think something cataclysmic that wipes out life, an asteroid, whatever. But actually, the world can end in a lot of different ways. And one theory, because there was a test that was ran in, I think, mid or late 2012 at the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, which borders between, I believe, Switzerland and France. And there they run pretty advanced physics experiments, and they're trying to basically break apart the building blocks of the universe to understand, the whole creation stuff.
I think they found the God particle.
Yes, that's what this study was. It was the God particle, the Higgs Boson, which if I could make it as simple as possible. Yeah. The Higgs boson is the particle in space or in existence that holds everything else together. So even empty space would not exist if it were not for the Higgs boson. Higgs boson is the glue that makes our reality.
Right. Reality.
Everything that it is.
So
yeah. That's why it's called the God particle, because it's responsible for everything.
It feels like a Jurassic Park scenario played out over there in CERN. Meaning like they were so concerned with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think, should we do this?
Yeah.
The could-should thing is a very, very marked thing in humankind. You're like, can we build a nuclear bomb? And nobody in the back of the room went, should we build a nuclear bomb? Just that one guy to go, hey, maybe don't go in that room with the murderer, the guy with the axe that's going to chop your face off.
This could not end well for us, Mr. Scientist guy.
What happens if we do succeed? Well, then we found the God particle. And what happens with that? Well, we just kind of revel in it. What happens if we don't succeed? We could destroy everything that we've ever known. Juice, squeeze, was it worth it?
So this study that discovered the Higgs boson, and I remember at the time when they were talking about, smashing particles together at like the speed of light or something. Yeah, people were like, yeah, they're making tiny black holes. And I go, wait a minute.
They're doing Tony Stark shit. Just don't worry about it.
I don't understand black holes fully, but it's my underandstanding that like they start small and expand, and
they're not good. They're not good for planets from what I remember in 5th grade. Freaking astrology.
So these guys are making, tiny black holes and studying them and, trying to figure out how that works.
Just making black holes.
But so the theory goes, to get back on track, is that when the Higgs boson experiment happened, the world may have ended in the sense that reality as we knew it forever was altered. And when this starts getting into weird things that happened for those of us that have been around pre-2012, you start to think the world does seem to be getting disproportionately weirder and weirder. And so the theory is that experiment set something loose, which actually either morphed two realities or put some people in a different reality than one they grew up in. And this is known as what's called the Mandela Effect. And the reason why it's called Mandela is some people have a very, very strong, almost innate memory that you can't talk them out of, that Nelson Mandela died in captivity, died in prison. But other people swear that, he got out and became the president of South Africa and all that kind of stuff. That's why it's another example is like the Berenstain Bears. Which is it, David? Berenstain or Bernstein? Which do you remember it as?
I have no strong opinion one way or the other on this.
I'm probably mispronouncing those.
I don't have a dog in that fight. I did have a dog in the fight in the Mandela. I was like, didn't he go to prison? They're like, yeah, never went to prison. It's like, not even for like 5 minutes. But anyway, no. So what was it?
So that's one thing. Is like some people strongly remember it like from their childhood. No, it's Berenstain Bears. That's the way I remember it.
Right.
And then other people.
I mean,
like,
that sounds right to my ear. That's what I'm. Berenstain Bear. No, that doesn't ring with me.
But some people said. So these are examples.
Just as a gut feeling.
So these are examples where people have very strongly held convictions about a very core memory that they shouldn't be getting wrong if there was only one right answer.
Correct.
And so this Mandela effect, feeding back into the theory, is that there might be people now in our timeline that didn't exist. They existed on a different timeline in a different reality. And things that are happening in different timelines are things that wouldn't normally happen. So for example, Trump being elected or Zelensky becoming the president of Ukraine.
We're trapped on a parallel timeline.
Like weird stuff is going on.
This is Freaky Friday, but we're stuck in Freaky Friday. There's no going back into Lindsay Lohan's body at the end of this. Well, okay.
So
anyway, but I had a point, but go ahead.
No,
finish up.
All I was going to say is if we sit here and think about it, and maybe we're just rationalizing our way into this being a legit thing.
Some mental jujitsu to get our minds around what the fuck is going on nowadays.
However, I caution to say that I do understand the argument that people will come up with very convoluted things to avoid accepting what is actually the truth, because the truth is probably more uncomfortable.
It's hard to fix the truth.
If we are in our standard timeline and like our reality just got this weird all by itself, that's almost a more uncomfortable conclusion.
Do you remember that Stephen King movie? I think it was like The Mist or something like that.
Yeah.
With that horrific ending.
Yeah.
And didn't that come from like interdimensional fuckery with like a close? So you're telling me that's possible. Well, and then if you told us that this could actually happen to you in 2022, we'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's 2019. Nothing bad happens. Like we get sunburns sometimes nowadays. But then 2020 hit, and now it doesn't feel like anything is beyond a possibility. Like flying monkeys or like a tree throwing apples at you because it's mad, or the Wicked Witch of the East. Yeah, it's a Wizard of Oz reference, Dane.
So, and I want to quote one thing from this article because it is a rather coincidental series of events that it could be just, again, complete coincidence. But, to play around and have fun with the theory, here's what the article says.
Because it's a really fun theory.
So,
really fun.
You're not having a blast?
I'm not having a blast over here. I'm like, oh, we fucked up.
So, quote, 3 weeks after they announced the discovery of the Higgs boson, the sun shot out the largest solar flare in more than a century. If it had struck the Earth, it would have caused trillions of dollars of damage to electronics worldwide. It missed us by the astronomical equivalent of inches. And that was just the beginning. Could it be that they ruptured our universe's quantum gravitational bond? He's talking about the experiment at CERN. Bond to that core of probable realities, that we have been drifting further and further from its center ever since into increasingly improbable events. So that kind of captures
What is this? What is this podcast all about? Is this like the Twilight fucking Zone? Did I just accidentally fall backwards into a Twilight Zone podcast? Like, Oh, good God.
David,
So maybe they saved our asses to thrust us into a weird, like, some kind of parallel universe that everything's up is down and black is white, and BLM is still donating things to Ukraine
and made millions and millions of dollars and completely disappeared from the IRS rolls.
And
what a time to be alive.
Female swimming is in the headlines. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy around here.
Listen, here's the thing, and this is where I guess I will personally leave this topic. I don't know if you have more to say on it, but I think there's a few basic tenets of this whole thing most of us can agree on. Most of us that were well enough aware of our existence pre-2012 would probably be in general agreement that the world does seem to be getting progressively weirder. The timing is rather suspect. The Mayan calendar thing is pretty interesting. The solar flare thing is pretty interesting. All of these things are just interesting little circumstances. But I posit to you again, the more uncomfortable conclusion. Is it more uncomfortable that we somehow spun ourselves off into some alternate reality or a mixture of two different realities? Or
would it have been better if the solar flare just knocked the shit out of us and it was all over?
Or if all the weird shit that's been going on recently is truly our fault and has nothing to do with any sort of shifting realities, but we're just this messed up as a species that we seem to be heading off into an oblivion of our own, particle physics or no particle physics.
All I know is it's that scene in Jurassic Park 2 where the Tyrannosaurus makes it to like California or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how it got there at this point. Like all the crazy scientific things that they did on that island, and somehow life finds a way and it got shipped onto the mainland. It doesn't matter how it is now. The how doesn't matter anymore. The fact that there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex about to chomp my grandma in half is the problem.
So
it doesn't matter how we got
conclusion.
Here. It doesn't matter how
it doesn't matter. It's equally
I'm just saying scientists stop doing things. Set it down.
David, I don't want guys. We're anti-science on this podcast.
They keep pushing this AI thing. She's even said she's going to put us in zoos, guys. Stop it. Just stop it. We're going to have Arnold asking for Sarah Connor any day now. Just calm down. Make my phone work faster and my internet faster and stop there. That's all I want.
I mean, there is... I don't remember if it was in this article, but somebody did theorize that the peak of human civilization happened somewhere around 2005. It's been downhill ever since. We were there.
We
saw
right there,
folks. We were the pinnacle. That's right.
We touched grace.
That's right.
And now it's gone.
So, with that being said, David, would you like to talk about more depressing things in the main part of the show?
It seems to be all we do nowadays. So let's go.
Let's go for it. Weapons of meme destruction. Weapon demeans.
Can you roll that one back?
Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction podcast, episode 87. Sorry, guys, I got nervous. If you're hanging out,
it's a new dawn for us. We've integrated some things here.
If you're hanging out on the YouTubes, the Odysseys, the Rumbles, any sort of video platform, you now see our smiling faces. So I'm a little nervous and it's got me off my game. Anyway,
how's my hair look? Does it look good?
It's beautiful.
You look nicely
It's flowing. You like it?
This is my first time.
Maybe I should get a haircut again next time.
Just getting a little nervous.
All right. So Weapons of Meme Destruction podcast episode 87 can be found at
great
WMD.
Year, by the way.
It is. It is totally not on purpose that we are on episode for the number of our birth year.
You didn't have to say that.
I did.
I could have just said that.
I'm embracing my mortality.
Fuck.
My birth year, I won't speak for Dave.
It's going to be a dark day when I find a gray pube. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be drinks. I'm going to pull out some yearbooks and be like, you were so young.
Listen,
You
here's
didn't know
the
what
thing.
you
You
had.
just text me or call me and say, I'm breaking out the scotch.
It's coming for you. Watch out.
And we'll just commiserate
Okay.
about our being old for the rest of the night. So, Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 87, can be found at wmdpodcast.com/87. Can be also found on any podcast app, the aforementioned YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble for video now. And link up with us on our other social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Oh, by the way,
Do we still have those?
Yes. New TikTok page. It is now not at Weapons of Meme Destruction. It is now WMD Podcast. We had to go over there because they shadow banned in perpetuity our other one for saying the C word too many times. And so we won't talk about that anymore, but we'll talk. Well, I guess this one's banned.
Oh, shit. It's going to have to be WMD Podcast 1.
Yeah. So go, if you found us from the original TikTok, go follow at WMD Podcast. Come on over there because that's where we'll be posting the new content. We're going to try to get our followers back up above 10K so we can grow this bad boy. But other than that, every single platform you find us on, like, subscribe, share, rate, please. It does the show a world of good.
He's an overachiever. Just whatever you're listening to us on right now, just rate us and say, good job, guys. Or tell us we suck. And that seems to be the more prevalent.
And I forgot, we'll do it on 88. But I was going to get out some of the comments that have been left on things like, I think you can leave reviews on like iTunes or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we read some of those last week, and some of them were good. Some of them
were just. They're justified.
They didn't much care for us. Maybe I'll try to find it here on the computer at some time while David's talking. But yes, we will read those and share those to let you guys know that we care about your opinions and making this podcast better.
So, not going to let you affect our lives, all right? We're trying to help you out.
No matter how successful we are on all of those platforms, we want you guys to know that, David, which tack are we taking? Are we or are we not Nazis for being into fitness?
I just want to be told I'm pretty.
Pure vanity coming from you. That's it. Pure vanity.
I just need to know I'm sexually appealing. That's all. That's where my buck stops. That's exactly where it is. One of the two of us, or both of us, or none of us, might have been involved in the fitness industry, and one of the two of the three of us might also be advocately working towards making ourselves better physically, like pursuing, challenging ourselves in the gym, making sure, we're lifting weights and staying healthy for not only our good, but the good of the society. Because what good are you if you're, dragging society down? Your society is only as strong as its weakest link. You don't want to be that weakest link. So I just thought it was more of a social responsibility to take care of yourself too. But now, after the Hadron Collider threw us off course in reality, it seems like even taking care of yourself makes you a Nazi nowadays. Drinking protein shakes makes you want Jewish people to die in showers. Defend it.
Yeah, that's Godwin's law doesn't apply exactly here because that was about online. Well, I mean, I guess, this is an article, but the idea that online speech, the longer that the conversation goes on, the more likely that there will be a Hitler reference that's brought up
it's like Chekhov's
in the course
gun.
of that.
It's like Chekhov's gun. If you present a gun in the second scene, it has to be used in the next scene.
So if you're having an online conversation with somebody, Hitler has to be a dropped at some point.
It could be great.
It could be 5 minutes in. It could be an hour in.
Hitler had some good points. Or it could be option B. Hitler was really bad, Someone should have killed that baby.
So if Godwin's law is applicable here, these people that write articles like what we're about ready to discuss would be, if Godwin's law was an Olympic sport, they'd be the undefeated gold medalists every single time.
And I want you, dear listener, to think while we're working through this, I've started to think in my own mind. I'm not trying to tell you how to think. That's not what we're doing here. But I'm seriously starting to wonder whether or not there's a pool at these places that write these dipshit columns saying like, how fucking crazy can we get? Or there's just like a board and they just throw darts at it. Like fitness, Nazis. How can we make the fitness industry Nazis? And whales not having sex anymore, dying out. How can we make that sexy? Go.
How can we blame that on climate change?
You know what? It's Mark Zuckerberg's fault. That's who it is. We're going to blame it on Facebook that the whales aren't having sex anymore and they're dying out. All right? You got your assignments. Get out there.
So, and we will put, as we always do, but for the new listeners, we will put these articles up, both the one about the pre-show, but also this one at wdpodcast.com/87. So you can read these for yourself and see what you think. But jumping into the article, it is titled, and it's written by MSNBC. You might even
have heard
remotely be surprised.
You might have heard of them.
It is an opinion piece, but it's titled "Pandemic Fitness Trends Have Gone Extreme." Literally.
Now, that's not like extreme workouts, like getting completely ripped, which is what I was led to believe when I opened the article.
Until you found out that wanting that makes you a Nazi. But
I will admit, Nazism is pretty extreme. Go ahead, Dane.
Subtitle, White Supremacists' Latest Scheme to Valorize Violence and Hypermasculinity Has Gone Digital. And this is written by a Cynthia Miller Idris. So she's very concerned that people getting in shape
Cynthia
is going to turn everybody into Nazis.
Miller Idris.
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 IDRISS. Yeah.
One more time. So
Cynthia Miller Idris. Idris. I don't know how to pronounce it. Whatever.
All I'm going to say is that is the exact name that would write this exact article.
No, not a Karen in there or something like that?
No, that would be not. It's Cynthia. Of course, there's three. There's always three names when somebody's being a complete asshole.
Yeah.
John Wilkes Booth. JFK.
Cynthia Miller Idris.
Who's the guy that shot JFK?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Wrong. The CIA. Go ahead, Dave.
All right. So here's what Miss Miller Idris has to say. Basically, her theory is, well, I mean, I'm sure that this is going on. I'm sure, you can find somebody doing just about any absurd thing you can possibly think of if you look hard enough.
She's going to make you say that whole name too, by the way.
But
she's not going to let you get away. Can I call you Sin? No, it's Cynthia Miller Idris.
Idris. You're adding extra D's in there, David. Cut the stuff.
Oh,
all right.
She hasn't earned the D yet. You're right, Dane.
So what she's saying is because COVID, made everybody stay home and they're now, getting their fitness on, because of that neo-Nazi white supremacist radical groups are now going on creating online chat boards and video rooms and stuff like that and recruiting people to white supremacy. And the reason why they're using people in the physical fitness world is because, don't you know, stupid peasant, physical fitness and radical alt-right neo-Nazism have always been intimately intertwined.
There's not one liberal that likes the UFC.
Ever.
Not one.
Not actually the premier target of the cathedral lately, Joe, who self-identifies as like a moderate liberal.
Well, they've turned their back on him quite a bit with his worm pills and his rhetoric.
Right. Yeah, no, he's now also part of that super white nationalist,
But if you listen to any one of his millions of podcasts that each one is 3 hours long, he says it all the time. He's liberal on everything but guns and a couple of other things.
Had Bernie on a few times, endorsed Bernie for president.
Tulsi Gabbard, what was
Tulsi
she
on?
Like, Jesus God.
Anyway, as we all know, David, only people that like big biceps are neo-Nazis.
Arnold was a Republican,
and he was from Austria.
And he was from
Same
Austria,
place as.
And he you getting the picture? You seeing the lines?
Have we connected enough dots for you, dear listener?
You see this spider web diagram we got back here?
So, and I want to.
Yes, I've been pissing in jars for 5 days. No, it's not a problem. I'm going to handle that later.
I'm going to quote one article, or sorry, a paragraph from the article, because this really, I mean, this is where she goes off the rails. And by the way, this is the third paragraph in, not even a full, but probably second and a half paragraph in, Godwin's law is established. So the article says, and I quote, physical fitness has always been central to the far right. In Mein Kampf, Hitler fixated on boxing and jiu-jitsu, believing they could help him create an army of millions whose aggressive spirit and impeccably trained bodies, combined with, quote, fanatical love of the fatherland, would do more for the German nation than any mediocre tactical weapons.
First problem right there. Boxing. Come on. No offense, boxers, but you're leaving your legs exposed, calf kicks. You're going to want to throw kickboxing in there at least. You're going to want to get some legs in there.
David's clearly been hanging out in these neo-Nazi chat boards.
I am quite fond of the Aryan race, apparently. I've drank one too many protein shakes and done one too many pull-ups, apparently.
Yeah. So, but let's just focus on the first sentence of that paragraph where she says physical fitness has always been central to the far right, and then goes on to link Hitler. That's like saying Hitler liked to salt his food, so therefore everybody that eats salt on their food is Hitler.
Well, you know what? They've got a point there. One of the most denoting markations of a Ku Klux Klan member, aside from the hoods and stuff, is their ripped physique. Like every one of them, they're definitely not missing teeth. They're definitely not look like they just stumbled out of a trailer park somewhere. They look like they've stumbled out of Fitness 10X.
You know why I don't believe that?
Getting a hard cardio. What's that?
You know why I don't believe that? Because they don't, their uniforms aren't exactly skin tight.
They named their leader the Grand Dragon.
If that's not somebody into
that's
physical
not the
fitness,
scariest
I don't
thing
know.
you've ever heard of, I don't know what is. It's like a guy that weighs 300 pounds with a wolf tattoo on his back. You don't fuck with that guy. He knows things. He's a wolf, don't you know?
So, now, I mean, like, listen, I think the point's been amply made. Is it's like, oh, well, this one guy who did really, really bad shit one time liked this one thing. Therefore, it's an ingrained history that anybody that, likes to get swole for Mammary Mondays at the gym, automatically loves Hitler.
Or
is the
Mammary
same
Mondays.
guy.
Or Whoppers Wednesdays if you don't have the time for Mammary Mondays.
Yes, it becomes Titty Tuesdays if everybody else is there for International Chest Day on Monday.
Mammary Monday is a holiday. Everyone's doing chest on Monday.
Exactly. So
good luck finding a bench.
The article goes on to say that this is a global problem because don't you know, there are these radical recruiting regimes in gyms and online and all that kind of stuff that they can be found in places like Ukraine, Canada, and France.
There's recruitment in the gym, but it ain't for white supremacy.
It's recruitment of those muscle fibers, bro. That's what it is.
Not necessarily.
You got to recruit them fibers and get that weight up, son.
All of a sudden, that guy that's been looking at you from across the gym goes, "Oh, that's I like your shoes. Like, I like your shoes too."
You don't think he's trying to draw you into some neo-Nazi cabal?
Oh, he's trying to draw me into something.
There
might be a cabal.
Trying to draw you into him.
Yeah, exactly. Or him into me. That's what I'm trying to. He's trying to draw himself into me, and I don't. I'm at the gym. Okay, I'm a white supremacist. I'm not a homosexual.
So, you might have noticed in that little list that I just gave you about there's these boxing gyms in Ukraine, Canada, and France. One of those is not like the other. One of them's currently being occupied, and there's hyperlinks to all three. And what did we learn on the Joe Rogan Letter episode? What do you do with these articles, David? You click the links. So we click the link on Ukraine, and you will never guess who is doing this neo-Nazi recruiting in Ukraine. That's right. A group that we mentioned in episode 83 about the Ukraine-Russia history, the Azov Battalion, which is kind of like the militant arm of the Svoboda Party, the one that reinstated the hero status of Stepan Ben-Sel in Ukraine from World War II.
You know what's crazy about all of this?
What?
Just a side note, just a stupid brain fart moment I had in my head. Has this bitch ever heard of basic training? Like, if she thinks that these guys are nuts, whoa, she should check out Buds. She should check out the Navy SEAL, like just making the cut kind of thing. It's like,
yeah, you can watch that on the military
full
channel.
Of male toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
You have to say male now because, you know.
So, I mean, here's the thing about the Azov Battalion in Ukraine, and that she cites that for near, and again, to break it down for anybody that's not already aware of why that's such a big deal, is this openly Ukrainian ethnic supremacist that, you know, wants to make the nation state of Ukraine very strong with, again, you're sensing themes here. This Azov Battalion is on the side of, you know, well, Ukraine, but the United States is helping fund, train them, has been for years. And it reminds me of that old, I forget who said it, but it's like, if you want to know who America's enemies are going to be tomorrow, just look at who they're funding and training today. Every group of moderate rebels, they do to topple a regime.
Our foreign policies never bit us in the ass.
I know, how silly of me, right?
It's always worked out exactly how we wanted it to.
So I would say, based on that not so distant history, that the United States should be careful about who they're lionizing and making heroes over in Ukraine.
So for the next time,
according to Cynthia Miller Idris, I can't believe I remember that. Good job to me.
You added the D. I got your head.
I said Idris.
No, you said Deidris.
No.
We'll play it back.
Anyway.
Just get in the comments. Let them know he fucked up.
That's a rather curious series.
You know what?
Events.
So now I'm going to be at the beach being like, man, that guy's got a six-pack. He's super supremacist. He's like the most white supremacist.
He's the most supremacist.
He's got all the muscles. Oh my God. He's got a deltoid separation. That guy hates ethnicities.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So, and I'm glad you brought up the concept of toxic masculinity not too long ago, because in very 1984-ish fashion, it's funny how who heard of toxic masculinity 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years, whenever it popped up.
It was just called being a man.
It just all of a sudden came out of nowhere all at once, right? And everybody this was a known thing that we needed to be worried about.
I remember it from the Gillette commercial.
Right, but I mean, that's really not that long ago.
The face. I was like, wait, hold on. You've got a product that strictly men use, and you're going to shit.
Your tagline is the best a man can get.
You're going to shit on the only people that buy your product.
Well, that line of your product, but yeah. Gillette makes stuff for women.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. You know, hey, you guys, you're pieces of shit. Buy our stuff. Like,
I don't think I will.
You kind of put me off, and I'm going to finish my dinner, but I don't think I'm going to be using your razors anymore.
Yeah. So, Miller Idris goes on, and I'm just going to jump around this paragraph because it's a rather lengthy one, but I just want you to look at the traits that she would... What?
Cynthia
Miller. What did I say?
Idris. No, you said Miller Idris.
Yeah, Miller Idris.
What did I say at the top of this?
Her full name.
She's going to make you say all of her name every time. Cynthia Miller Idris. Look it up.
All right, but do I need to cow to Empress Cynthia Miller Idris?
Lest she write any podcaster is racist and a Nazi.
So.
Sounds like it's coming next.
Her first grouping of things that are apparently just objectively evil, no matter what context they're brought up in. She says the intersection of extremism and fitness leans into a shared obsession with the male body, training, masculinity, testosterone, strength, and competition. Now, let's just take a step back for a second.
She's being sexist.
Yes, she definitely is, because clearly women cannot be radicalized.
No woman's ever worked out, ever.
Oh, yeah.
Has she been on Instagram? I can get on Instagram right now and see 3 buttholes under barbells. That's all I'm saying. Within 3 swipes of TikTok, I'm at least seeing some cheeks pushing some weight. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, suffice it to say that social media is awash in these apparently white supremacist women.
They are so supremacist. Oh my God. Those Latins, they're the most supremacist. Their cheeks are huge. Can almost see them from space.
I'm getting so fired.
We got video now.
Listen,
We're
everybody,
gonna be famous.
This is why you need to like, subscribe, and share, and financially
I'm
support
gonna get
the show.
you fired.
Because the chances that my real life job survives this podcast are virtually nil.
Dane, I want you to know I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to get you fired.
Oh no! I thought you were saying you were doing your best to keep a lid on it, and it's still this bad.
Well, maybe a little column A, a little column B.
That was okay. Anyway, so the male body that's bad because that is inherently linked to extremism. Training, to David and I's point, plenty of people of both genders do that.
What am I?
Masculinity, as again, she doesn't even say toxic. She just masculinity qua masculinity.
It's just bad.
It's just the
men
bad
are just
thing.
bad. Like imagine. I want to see the shirt. I think I brought this up. I saw a chick wearing a shirt that said, like all men are shit, and she's just working out. And it's like, imagine you went to the gym in like a tank top that said all women suck. There's your gender gap right there.
There's your toxic femininity.
No shit. Imagine the hate. The purple hairs would turn on you so quick.
Okay. Next thing in the bad list, testosterone. Oh yeah, you know that thing that like half of the population is born with?
No. 100%.
Women
have testosterone.
Women have it, yes.
Some people have more of it than others. It's called biology. It's the thing you guys ignore all the time when you say there's more than two genders.
Right, but testosterone, I think, I'm going to totally butcher this. Testosterone is much more integral into the overall health and well-being of a male than a female.
Of course.
Like if you have low testosterone, you can get depressed and all that kind of stuff.
You can't get it up. You can't even reproduce. I don't even have the energy to make it work.
But I mean, it's a rather important hormone for
it's
basic
kind of our
human
basic
male function.
Like the primary hormone.
And then the last two, strength and competition. Because again, women aren't involved in strength or competition feats.
Never. They aren't bitching about pay raises for certain teams against other teams because they get. Is she like? I don't have to ask if she's good at her job. I know she's not. But like, did anyone else read this?
I know that she's not.
Did anyone else read this and go, "You can't say this"? Like all of this is nonsense.
I mean, it is an opinion piece. The publisher might have just let her go straight to print with it.
Yeah, and you know what opinions are? It's white supremacy. White supremacy is an opinion. And we don't like that. We don't like your opinion, 3-name person that needs you to say all 3 names.
Yeah, but her opinion is innocent, don't you know, David? Her opinion doesn't
it's for the greater
violence.
good.
More on that later.
What happens when the Trojans are at the gate and it's all chicks?
You're going to want a little bit of toxic masculinity.
I can tell you what happened to Ukraine.
What happened to Ukraine?
Oh, you want this male toxicity, this male masculine toxicity is terrible. Well, every woman and child of all ages got to flee fucking Ukraine. But if you had
like men 16 to 60.
Testicles 16 to 60.
You want to talk about child labor? Last time I checked, and I don't know what the laws in Ukraine are, but 16 in America is a child.
You can
and they're
barely
going to say, pick up a gun and go die, son.
You can barely operate a fucking vehicle. You want to operate a utensil for murder.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so again, like everyone, the thing about this is that it's indicative of our times. Like we live in the best time it has ever been to be a human.
Yep.
And it was created by people bearing through really, really fucking horrific times. Like there used to be a time, I know it's hard for you to believe, dear listener, that you would live in a hut next to another hut, next to another hut. And there were like 20 huts. And there was one main dude. And one main dude would blow a horn, and then all the other dudes would follow him out to go get food. And by getting food, I mean like killing a fucking elephant. And then they'd have to cut it and drag it back. While you, dear listener woman, would pick berries or raise the children. That's how it worked. And then sometimes there was another group that didn't like your group very much. And they'd come into your town and they'd set a blaze to every hut they could if the men didn't kill the other men. And if your men weren't toxically masculine enough to kill the other toxic masculinity, guess what that toxic masculinity did? They made you their slaves. Sex slaves, and killed your children. Yeah. That was
history is pretty rough. But this reminds me of an Andrew Scholes joke.
Please.
Where he's like, women really timed it great. Now, he's like, yeah, a long time ago, yeah, you go fight that lion and tiger or whatever. We'll just stay here and pick the berries. And now it's like where there's air conditioning inside. It's like I demand to work in the office.
We can do that too. We can do that.
Yeah.
They're never complaining about the same pay on the construction sites.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And I mean, listen, we're just pointing out very obvious things to kind of drive the point home that we're all in this together. And like singling out one group to be like, the objectives that make you, all the way down to freaking hormones. Those are things to be viewed with suspicion and you're bad and all of that kind of stuff. But the opposite of those things is, laudable, and everything they do is a fight for advancement and peace and all that kind of stuff. But singling out a group of people like that, if your objective is to stop extremism, you might not want to be running around calling everybody who isn't today an extremist who says, you know what? Screw her. I'm going to prove her right. You are creating the very people that you're alleged to be worried about. And not only are you oblivious to that, you do it in a way that violates your own professed principles, your own professed principles of like tolerance and, unity and all the fairy tale stuff that you guys are into. And your actions violate the most intimate of those principles.
Imagine, again, I just want to take all this and just put it into another context of something I referenced earlier in the podcast. Imagine, take all the male toxicity away. Just replace all male. Every time she said a male in that article, replace that with transgender. Replace that with a member of the LGBTQ, whatever they are now. And it's violent, it's aggressive, and they will not stand for it anymore because it's intolerant. But she can say that against males because they know we'll take it. That's not, again,
because it's acceptable.
Exactly.
There are certain people
by their laws, not everyone's, by their laws.
There are certain people that it's acceptable to make a punching bag out of. Just like Miss Cynthia Miller Idris will be surprised to learn that I know that's exactly what Hitler did, right? He picked a group of people, he demonized them to the point that anything, no matter how tangentially related to them it possibly is, can be blamed on them.
Did Hitler ever eat a steak?
Probably.
Fuck.
There goes half my diet.
Did he drink water? Fuck.
Yep. This was the exact tactic that he used. Singled out a group of people for sometimes immutable characteristics, like what ethnicity they happen to be born into or what religion they happen to believe, and use that group for immutable characteristics like that and made them the scapegoat, which eventually led to atrocities. Don't pretend like that's not exactly what's being done here. What's being done here is saying that for these immutable characteristics that, just coincidentally happen to align with maleness and being too competitive and yada, 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 they are intrinsically tied to extremism and capable of white nationalism.
And if you think articles like this aren't a problem, and I'll admit I didn't think that they were at first. And if you think this ideology isn't a problem, you think, they're just wackadoodles, crazy. We'll just let them have they're teaching it in schools now. They're teaching it in schools to kindergartners. And how we know that is our Governor DeSantis just passed a law that they called anti-gay.
No, they called it the Don't Say Gay bill, even though that is nowhere in the bill.
Thank you.
Yes.
He's the fact checker. I'm just the free swinger.
He's the looks.
I'm the free swinger here. Nowhere in it said anything homophobic or anything like that. So
here's what it said.
Please.
It said, you cannot talk about sexuality to kindergartners through third graders. Any sexuality. So that's not a don't say gay bill. That's a don't say anything sexual in nature to kindergartners to third graders. After third grade, then it's up to, the parents and all that kind of stuff to come to terms with like what kind of conversations that the kid is ready for. But there is a don't talk about sexuality with kindergartners through third grade. And here's the thing about the left when they support things like this. It's always said that they don't actually ever stand for anything. They just oppose other things. So I would ask somebody who would say that would disingenuously call this a don't say gay bill. I would ask them, I would say, okay, so since it says that you can't talk to kindergartners through third graders about sexuality, I want you to stand firm on that position that you support talking to kindergartners through third graders about sexuality. Own that position. Don't just like get mad that somebody doesn't want that to happen. Own that position and they'll never do it.
And you want to know why they'll never do it? Because just imagine you're locked alone with a third grader in a room that you don't know. What would you talk about? Probably toy cars. Probably the
Legos.
The sport that they play.
What's their favorite food?
What's your video game that you play? Are you on Fortnite? Yeah, me too. It's crazy.
Oh, cool. What's your tag?
Would you go, so like how hard does your dick get? Oh, that feels pretty uncomfortable, right? Yeah.
That sounds like something we shouldn't say to kindergartners.
That feels like we should just leave that one alone. I mean, sex education, was that 5th grade for you?
I think the earliest I got it was 6th grade.
I think I was 5th. Yeah. But same difference. But
you're 11 years old.
By the time
you can understand things at 11 years old, 10, 11 years old.
And usually, actually, they might be doing us a favor because anything the teacher ever said was just like, oh, that dumb bitch. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So yeah. No, there are more than 87. There's 87 genders. Like, even as a kindergartner, I'd be like, I've met 2. So we're going to stick with 2. Anyway, my whole point being is that to let this kind of slide it's not dangerous, but it is dangerous. You have to kind of check it at some point. You have to let them know that like this is the line, and this is the line that we're at now. So apparently Disney's employees protested it. Like, okay, let them. I'll hire other people. Like, that's cool at this point. Like, if you think you can walk out of Spotify because Joe Rogan took ivermectin, then I feel like I can hire somebody else behind you if you're going to take this bill and make it your hill to die on. That's all I'm saying. Like this kind of like thought process can be not even listened to. It can be, how would you say it? Just placated. We can placate this ideology. Yes, everyone lives in a dream world. Yes, this is a utopia. Yes, everything should do the right thing. Right. And then we'll go out and work in the real world that we blew up with the Hadron Collider at the beginning of this episode.
Well, I'll say 2 things about this is first of all, well, now I forgot. Kept going and then I forgot.
You had 2 things to say and you forgot both of them?
I forgot both of them.
Well,
that's all right. I'll it'll come back to me.
We'll just wait until it does.
You just go ahead and keep talking, David. Oh yes, you were talking about why this stuff is important. Why, it's like, oh, well, we can just roll.
We'll be right back.
We can just roll our eyes at this article or whatever. Right. Well, no, it's important for 2 reasons. And one is directly tied to what the purpose of this podcast is. The reason why it's called Weapons of Meme Destruction is because it's not just old memes only, like taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society. Yes, that's still a meme out there that needs to be destroyed for a freer society that doesn't accept, taxation, which is theft. But there's also new memes trying to be made every day. And when these type of articles and the celebrities that espouse this junk are constantly given airtime and the other side never is, then it's much easier to convince the society to turn on that group of people, make that group of people second-class citizens. In this case, it's white men, and especially white men who are very proud of their nation, as they're uniquely bad to the good of everybody else. It doesn't stop there. What happened during COVID? Right? A group of people who chose not to get a medical procedure were all of a sudden completely driven out of society and cheered, and people asked for them to be driven even further out. So it doesn't just stop with white men, and it doesn't just stop with white nationalists, and it doesn't just stop with
the whole point
even
is
the
it
extreme
never
groups
stops.
that she's talking about.
It never stops.
Right.
And it's always a slippery slope. You're as compliant as you can be today, and tomorrow it's not good enough. That's the key thing, is that if you don't check it now, and no one, the old phrase, and we hearken back to it all the time, hard times make hard men. Hard men make easy times. Easy times make soft men. Soft men make hard times. You can't be soft during this. There are rules to this, and this isn't a call to action. We're not, number one, that big.
Yeah, we're not these groups that she thinks are just everywhere around the corner.
We're not recruiting. We are recruiting technically to listen to the podcast. Yeah, but other than that, like, do what you want when you want to do it. That's libertarianism.
Yeah.
But to let reality slip through your fingers because you don't want to offend somebody that's just going to scream at you for offending them, this is where the line's drawn. Go work out. Go be healthy. Because at the end of the day, this being healthy, working out, gains self-efficacy. You feel better about yourself. You look better. You feel more confident.
Which is a white nationalist thing, David. That's exactly why they like it.
Well, it's a self-reliance thing. They don't want you to feel like you can live your life without their help. That's the key issue. Like, they don't want you to be healthy. They want you to be on their health care. They want you to be on their pharmaceuticals. Pfizer figured out the vaccine. They saved us from COVID-19 implicitly, but they just pulled off 3 of their heart or for blood pressure medications because they were carcinogenic. Fucking whoops. Like, that's what they don't tell you. These are the things that they're trying to push you because they don't want they don't want a lone wolf. They want sheep. Yeah. And it's again, it sounds cliche, but that's truly what they're doing. Like, they don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to be able to farm your own land, kill your own meat. Like, they don't want you to be able to do that. They want you to have to depend on them to do it, which is where this whole ideology stems from.
And a couple of those kind of objective words, you say, what's wrong with them? But the context that she puts them in is just, it makes perfect sense for what David's saying about them wanting you to be dependent on them. And by them, this is, again, we're talking about this concept of the cathedral.
Right.
The blue-pilled people who are like, well, anything that's ever been good that's happened has come from centralized command and government. And so we got to take the reins of power and be better and yada, yada, yada. So she says that concepts are trained to accept significant physical pain, be warriors, and to, get these 3 words, embrace messaging around solidarity, heroism, and brotherhood. Now, what did we just talk about not 5 seconds ago about dividing people so that you could, demonize them and all that kind of stuff? If you have a people that are one in solidarity, which they claim to want to have, that have a sense of brotherhood, like I care about my neighbor and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not gonna, basically toss him on the train tracks for a difference of opinion. And then heroism, the idea to stand up against overwhelming odds and, try to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, including
making a podcast huge.
Yeah, including making a podcast huge. Or the people that, if just a few more heroes stood up and said no to the regime that wanted to forcibly inject children, maybe we wouldn't have gotten that far. So of course they don't want solidarity, heroism, and brotherhood to be popular concepts within the broader culture. Because again, it resists them. They want your eyes only looking in one direction, and it's always to them. So they're not sly or subtle with articles like this. We see it for exactly what it is, but it's exactly what we were talking about in the purpose of this podcast. Memes like this are getting pushed out there all the time, sometimes more subtle than others. But those memes have to be destroyed and replaced with better ones of, yeah, let's not hit our neighbor and take his stuff. Let's agree to disagree and, go our separate ways if we just can't be in the presence of each other.
We used to be
Let's
able to do
live
that.
and let live. Right? Those concepts are exactly what we're trying to
But
instill.
we used to be able to do that. Like, I remember there could be a George Bush
Pre-2012. Thanks, CERN.
Yeah. No more thanks, Obama. It should be thanks, CERN. Anyway, but that's the thing is like you used to be able to have like differing opinions and it didn't have to result in a fist fight.
Yeah.
We used to be able to talk to each other. The brotherhood. Like belonging to something, feeling like you're a part of something, feeling like you're
Which
a part
again,
of a
they
collective.
claim they
That's
want.
humanity.
Yeah.
Humankind, our psychology, oh my God. Our psychology drives us towards that. We are a social being. You want to be a member of as many groups as you possibly can because that makes you feel whole.
Yeah.
They don't want you to feel whole. They don't want you to feel akin to anything. They don't want you to feel like a brotherhood. They want you to feel isolated because when you're isolated, you'll listen to them more because you're a part of them from afar. Like, again, I would say to wrap up my point of this whole podcast is do everything that, what were the three names again?
Cynthia Miller Idris.
God, you're great. Do everything that she told you not to do. Go work out.
Except for the joining up with neo-Nazi, like don't do that.
Maybe even that. It's important to feel like don't join
listen,
neo-Nazis.
I'll put it this way. Whether or not we say to do it or not do it, anybody hears this podcast on the cathedral side of the ledger is going to say that's exactly what we said.
We might as well just come out and say they said it, so we'll make their job easier. Yeah, definitely join the Ku Klux Klan. Anyway, all sarcasm aside, do the things that they're telling you not to do. Go out, be healthy, live your life how you want to live it, and
join a community and solidarity and brotherhood with it, and
build your life how you want to build it.
Right. And
you're gonna be called a Nazi. Cool. Whatever. I've been called an asshole. I've been flipped off on fucking 95. It's not that big a deal. It doesn't affect my life. Just push on past it.
And for any remaining objectors that made it this far in the episode, I have a feeling anybody who disagrees with us probably turn it off in 5 minutes. But if you've made it this far,
they didn't turn it on in the first place.
I want to anticipate an objection and have you say, well, listen, guys, you're saying that this isn't as much to be concerned about as she did. She's more valid in her concern because at the end of the day, even if her opinion is screwed up, it's not calling for violence. But these people, if they're out there and they exist, they're doing their recruiting. It is all violence. Well, dear objector, let me read you the last sentence of the article where she says, the realm of online fitness now provides a new and ever-expanding market for reaching and radicalizing young men. And it requires our targeted focus and resources to try and stop the cycle. If you don't think that is a call to action from the government and agencies when we did the post-January 6th coverage and, the Secretary Brennan was talking about, going after everybody, including conservatives and libertarians, he talked about targeting his focus on certain groups and using the Bureau's resources to track those people down. That's a not so veiled call for the United States government to start singling out people, casting the net as widely as possible, and potentially, if they're hysterical enough, imprisoning people for their political views. Now, listen, we don't have to say that we defend or don't defend the worst among us, but the point is, as we said earlier in this episode, it never stops there. Alex Jones was an easy first ban.
Just remember,
that was just a test. They wanted to see how the public would react to somebody like Alex Jones getting banned. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, it's almost anybody that differs from the regime by 5 degrees.
And always remember, the ACLU fought for the right to freedom of speech for the Ku Klux Klan.
At one point.
Because they knew that was a slippery slope. When you can mute the one that has the right to speak, but nobody wants to hear it, then eventually you can mute the one that you want muted or that you don't want to have the right to speak, but should be granted the right to speak.
Right.
That's where it slides down to. And that's the slippery slope that we're on.
I mean,
they came for Joe. And like, if they had gotten him, every other podcast would be right there. If we ever reached their radar, we'd reach their radar, we'd be a blip, they'd nuke us, and then move on.
No, here's exactly what I think is going on there. They took down Alex, and he had a big platform.
Of course.
They tried to take down Joe, testing, can we take down somebody that already has a massive
That's standing
platform?
up.
You can't take down the guy if he's too big, so what's the solution? You make sure that nobody coming up ever gets to that level. And eventually, Joe and the established big guys who they couldn't get rid of, they die off or they quit doing podcasts or whatever. But you don't have anything growing up behind them because you have successfully demonized so many people and you cast the net so broad, you can literally cancel anybody for anything.
Right.
That's when it starts to hit your individual doorstep.
We're not saying that's what's happened to us, but we were like the 141st podcast in Australia on politics. So
yeah. And I mean, listen,
I don't want to say we're big, but you should know our name.
I mean, 10,500 followers on TikTok is not that many people, but of all of our social media platforms, which we have had for a lot longer, like Instagram, Twitter, whatever, that was the fastest growth of any platform. And again, we got perpetually shadow banned, which is supposed to only last like a month, but ours never came back after 3 before we decided to make the new one. It was shadow banned for that entire time, simply for sharing articles that talked about things that happened during COVID.
From reputable sources like MSNBC.
Yeah. I literally posted an article behind me that said that a small village in Brazil was getting, weekly doses of ivermectin, and they just so happened to have a lower case count than neighboring communities. Again, whether that's a correlation causality problem, I didn't make any analysis of that. I said, look at this title of this article behind me. This is something that happened in the world. What do you think? And that was the last one that got a shadow ban. So again, thinking that it stopped with Alex Jones and his Sandy Hook stuff and all that kind of stuff, that's never where it stops.
That's the first mile. It's a marathon, dog.
Right.
Anyway, so Dane.
You think we've sufficiently scared the people with, if we're not in an alternate reality, they're marching, goose step toward a dystopian 1984
and if they were
crypto tyranny?
And if they were goose stepping and couldn't really look down at their phones, help them out. Where could they find us?
They would check us out at wmdpodcast.com/87. They'd check us out on any podcast app they like to listen to podcasts on, but also YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble for the video platforms, which as of this episode, yours truly is going to be doing the video editing. So if it's late or whatever, that's my fault, but we're getting there. This is supposed to be the first video episode. And we do want to remind everybody that because we will now be doing the video, which takes a little bit longer, we will now start releasing episodes every Wednesday instead of every Monday to give us a little bit more time to do the video editing. So expect that as we can speed up, we'll move them back maybe Tuesday or Monday. But for now, moving forward, both on podcasts and on video platforms, the episodes will come out simultaneously on Wednesdays.
And despite the fact that it might make you a supremacist neo-Nazi motherfucker, get out there, run a couple of miles, lift some weights.
And like, share, subscribe, and rate on all the social media platforms and digital platforms. Okay, this has already been too long. I found the things. I was going to read the things, but I'm not going to read the things. Remind me for 88. Come back for 88 where I will read our iTunes reviews because they're kind of funny.
Meh.
And give us some more. By 88, give us some more so that we can, I mean, you know.
Please.
Yes. Go to
Just
iTunes.
engage
and
with
give
us.
some more.
Just get on the mailing list and do all that good stuff.
That's right.
Get in the Facebook private lobby, all that good stuff. And above all, stay free, stay safe.